Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Wildcard. I'll be your host this week, Matt. You can follow me on Twitter at MattFFDynasty. And with me as always are my co-hosts. First off, Ali, who you can follow on Twitter at FFDynastyGrill. How are you doing, Ali?
Yeah, very well, Matt. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, thank you, mate. Obviously, as Wildcard Dynasty leagues have both kicked off this week, so my phone's been blowing up. It's been exciting. Obviously, you're in one of those leagues, Ali. How do you think it's going so far?
Yeah, it's interesting at the spot 13. So a lot of the quarterbacks were gone by the time I came to pick. So I had to change up my tactic a little bit, but yeah, I'm not too dissatisfied.
Yeah, I think we'll find a little bit more out about which was your first pick, won't we, a little later on in the show? So something to look forward to. And obviously with you as well is our fellow co-host Kev, who you can follow on Twitter at Dynasty_Go. How are you doing, Kev?
Yeah, I'm awesome, Matt. Cheers. We're absolutely crushing our co-owned leagues out with us. We're in two of them and we're just absolutely dominating. So unlucky for everyone else in those leagues.
Yeah, we've had no fallout yet, have we, mate? We seem to be on the same wavelength so far, but we're only a few picks in. There's plenty of time for it to turn sour.
Yeah, plenty of time for some rookie running back debate, I think.
Yeah, not just yet. Get another round, about 2 rounds. Right, that's enough for that then. Before we start the show, Ali, do you just want to give the viewers and listeners a quick reminder about the Fantasy Wildcard Streamathon that's coming up?
Yes, rapidly approaching now. So our Fantasy Wildcard Streamathon is now less than 2 weeks away. I can't believe it. We're streaming on Saturday the 22nd of May, so a week on Saturday. We're doing a 16-hour live stream covering all 32 NFL teams from a dynasty perspective. And we've got some really awesome guests joining us along the way. And it's all for a great charity in mind, who help people that are suffering with mental illness. It's all close to our hearts. So be sure to check our pinned tweet on our Twitter page at Fantasy Wildcard to find the Just Given link, and also the list of all the great guests that will be joining us on the Streamathon. Any donations or support will be hugely appreciated, and we look forward to you joining us on the stream. Thank you very much.
Absolutely looking forward to that one, and obviously for a great cause. It's going to be a lot of fun. So on today's show, we've got a brilliant show. I know it's one we've all been looking forward to. We're going to be doing a post-draft 2-round Superflex Dynasty rookie mock draft. Can't wait for it. It's going. I know it's going to be fun. Obviously, we did the pre-draft one with Dave Wright, and that was great fun. So now, obviously, we know the landing spots, we know the draft capital, so things have become a little bit clearer. So, without any ado, Kev, shall we crack straight on with your 101?
Yeah, I'm not going to be outrageous. I'm just going to go chalk and take Trevor Lawrence. He's the consensus 101 in all formats. He's such a clean prospect, the top-rated prospect in high school and college. He won a national title as a freshman. He's a capable dual threat guy. He's a sneaky runner. The only thing I'd add to this pick is there is trade down ability if there is a silly offer that comes in, but let's just remember that Trevor Lawrence is a top 7 QB in Dynasty right now.
Yeah, completely agree with the pick. Can't go anywhere else really for me. He is that generational talent. It's the easiest 101 ever, really. And I think his ADP is fair. And I can actually see him being a top 5 quarterback in year 2 and 3. He's got all the traits that you want in a quarterback. So you haven't got to say too much about this pick. Just smash Trevor Lawrence as your 101, and you won't regret it.
Yeah, I don't think there's much more for me to add to this one. I think he's the easy pick at the 101. There's no need to get cute, as you mentioned, Kev. He's one of the best quarterback prospects we've seen in a long time. I think he's going to fit in perfectly in this offense alongside head coach Urban Meyer in that spread offense. And yeah, I think he's going to be great for fantasy, as we mentioned, the arm talent, but he's an underrated run of the ball as well. He's going to get you points on the ground. So yeah, easy choice, I think, at the 101. So, Kev, my question is, his current ADP is QB7. Obviously, I know that's not really factoring the redraft aspect side to it. That's from a dynasty point of view. But do you think he can hit that level of production as soon as year 1, or or are you a bit concerned? Do you think he can be a mid-tier QB1 or not?
I mean, first thing is he's also my Dynasty QB7, but I've got no issue with him being as high as Dynasty QB5. But coming on to your question about this season, I think it's really tough for him to be the QB7 this season. Just look at Justin Herbert. He had an amazing rookie season. He had the most passing touchdowns and most total touchdowns as a rookie all time, and he was only QB10 in fantasy points per game. I think the QB7 Dynasty ranking is factoring in his age. So if you can get a top 10 rookie season from Lawrence, you've got to be super happy with that.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much how I see it, Kev. I think we don't need that instant production, do we? We're paying for the longevity that we've got with somebody like Lawrence. So with that, we'll move on to the 102. Ali, who have you got?
Oh yeah, it's a guy I'm incredibly excited about. It's Trey Lance for the 49ers. For me, he's got to be one of the most exciting quarterbacks I've seen coming out of college. Period. Really, he's got all the traits you look for. He's a big, strong athlete. He's got that high rushing floor. I think he averaged about 70 yards a game in college. Which if he can transfer that to the NFL, then he's going to be a really good fantasy quarterback. He's only started 19 games, and he's not played against the best competition, which is my only knock on him, really. But he's overtaken Fields for the quarterback 2 spot for me post-draft. I just see the upside with Lance being just that little bit higher than Fields. Maybe even Trevor Lawrence in terms of fantasy. So yeah, for me, it's an easy pick. The talent and the upside outweighs the risk of him spending, he could spend a year on the sideline, but I think he starts sooner rather than later.
You'll be hoping so, Ali, because I know that's the guy that you grabbed, didn't you, in the Wildcard Dynasty League? So you're definitely backing up your takes, and you picked him in that startup. But yeah, I think I'd take him at this spot too, at the 102. We know all about that upside that he's got in fantasies. He's shown that he can be a great runner of the ball. He averaged just under 70 rushing yards a game in college. So, as I say, he's shown that upside that he has with his legs. And then couple that with that rocket of an arm that he's got, it can be fantastic in fantasy. And I really do think he can thrive under Kyle Shanahan in this offense. He's got playmakers like Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. And we know those guys that can make yards on their own after the catch. So I think that's only going to help him as well in regards to his fantasy production.
Yeah, I've got Fields over Lance, but I've got no problem with selection as both are super close. I think the selection in a rookie draft will boil down to the roster build itself. And I think throughout your Dynasty League, you look to get a bit of exposure to both of these guys and just sort of play a little bit safer that way. He has got a crazy ceiling. He's got an awesome situation as well. I know you took him in our Fantasy Wildcard League, Ali, but he actually went a little bit earlier in our other Wildcard League. He went at the 107. So a big shout out to T-Strack for that reach there. So I just want to get your thoughts on Fields and Lance, Ali. Is there a time where you take Fields over Lance in a draft? I know you've got Lance above Fields.
Yeah, probably the only situation is if I'm really close for going for a championship run this year in 2021, and I somehow manage to have the 102 in the rookie draft, then I'd probably grab Fields. I think Fields probably does outproduce Lance in year one. I can see him probably starting really early on, if not, week one. So yeah, that's probably the only situation. Other than that, no matter how long he has to sit, I'll be grabbing Lance at the 102.
Yeah, I think it's dead tight between the two of them, and that brings us on nicely to the 103. I've gone for Justin Fields with that pick. It feels like a can't lose spot, I think, the 103 in Superflex leagues, because you're going to get your pick of any of these top three rookie quarterbacks, and I think they're all going to be fantastic for fantasy. I think you could make a case for either going at the 102. So as I say, I'm more than happy to get Fields at the 103. I think it just tells how much the Bears wanted to get Fields, the fact that they gave up all that draft equity to move up and grab him in the draft in the first round. I think he's pro ready, so it feels like there's less risk attached to somebody like Justin Fields rather than Trey Lance. And as I say, I just think he's going to be great for fantasy, and I don't think you can go wrong really selecting him here at the 103. He's got some great weapons with the Bears. Obviously, Allen Robinson got franchise tagged, so he'll be sticking around, and they've got that big play threat in Darnell Mooney as well. And then with Fields, he can obviously add those yards with his rushing ability. So yeah, happy to get him here at the 103. Yeah,
for me, the absolute nuts best spot in a Superflex rookie draft, that 103 pick is the ideal spot for me. You're getting a top 12 Dynasty QB for one first rounder, essentially. So it's easily the cheapest. You'll get Fields if it does hit his fantasy potential. I don't think it's the best situation, but it's definitely not the worst either. I mean, like you said, Matt, he's tied to star wide receiver Allen Robinson. He's got those other young weapons. He's a great dual threat runner. He's an underrated passer. He actually had a better college QBR quarterback rating than Trevor Lawrence. Now, we know that the Bears have not had a QB1 in fantasy for the last 20 years, but I've got no doubt this changes very soon.
Yeah, it's a home run pick at the 103. It's got to be the best spot in the draft for me. You just take the quarterback that just falls there, whether it's Lance or Fields. He's an NFL ready starter, so he could start as early as week 1. He's not quite the runner that Lance is, but he can certainly extend them plays. And he is shifty, and I like his weapons. He's got Robinson, Mooney, and Cole Kmet, who I'm pretty high on as well. So just a quick question for you, Matt. Are you happy in Dynasty to have Justin Fields as your number 1 quarterback?
I think in an ideal world, I'd rather have a veteran quarterback above him. Obviously, we know rookies they can take a little time to adjust to the NFL. But with that said, I would be happy to grab him early and as my first quarterback in a startup. But then I'll probably be targeting more veteran players like a Matt Ryan, Kirk Cousins later on in the draft, just for that safer floor, really. And obviously, it's a bit of a insurance policy. But me and Kev, we got him, didn't we, Kev? We've got Fields in one of the leagues as his QB1. So
legends.
Yeah, we always back up his takes, don't we, on this show? So with that and backing up his takes, we're moving on to the 104. It's Kev's pick. Who have you gone for, Kev?
Yeah, if you listen to the last show, I kind of give it away a bit. I'm super high on this guy. It's Travis Etienne. Very high on him. Like I said, my running back 9 in startups, which is a lot higher than consensus, but he's everything you want in a dynasty running back. He's a pass catcher. He's a first rounder. He's got multiple years of college production. He's been drafted to an improving team. He's got familiarity with his college QB in the system. So I don't understand why there isn't much discussion versus Najee Harris for the rookie running back 1. Etienne actually would have been my running back 2 in last year's rookie class, just behind Jonathan Taylor. So super high on him. And Etienne, this point in the draft, I'm taking him over a guy like Jamar Chase because of the positional scarcity that running backs are a bit more valuable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like it, Kev. With the big time spice already at the 104 position. We love it. I have to say I'm not quite as high on Etienne as you, Kev. He's my RB2, and he's my current RB16 in Dynasty. So yeah, it's not changed since before the draft. I didn't hate the landing spot. It was actually really funny to see the eruption on Twitter with the Robinson owners. So going forward, I can see a timeshare certainly early on in the season of the 2, and then probably down the stretch, Etienne dominating. He's that sort of guy that doesn't need the high volume. So yeah, and he links up with his college quarterback Trevor Lawrence, which is important. And I can't understand the backlash that people are moving him down the rankings for landing in Jacksonville. I don't understand that.
I mean, Kev, with this pick, sometimes if you want your guy, you've got to go and get him, haven't you? So, yeah, I can't knock you for taking him at the 104. I think he's going to have an immediate impact playing alongside James Robinson. And then I think it's only going to be a matter of time before he gets that larger workload and he starts forcing Robinson out, obviously, with the big plays and the talent that we know he has. I think it's only a matter of time before he starts to take over this backfield. We mentioned it a little bit last week, but I mean, if you're going to be in a spot where you've got to compete against another running back, what better situation than against the undrafted free agent who obviously has no ties to the coaching staff, and then paired obviously with Trevor Lawrence at quarterback, his college quarterback with Clemson. I think that's again fantastic for him, and a reason why I think he can produce early and just become a great fantasy running back. I know obviously he is your RB1, Kev, out in this rookie class, but do you think he actually outproduces fellow rookie running back Najee Harris year one, or is this more of a long-term investment for you?
Yeah, I'm taking Najee in year one of Dynasty. I think you've got to back volume in the short term, and we know that Harris is in line for about 300 touches. With Etienne's workload less certain in year one, I think if you look at the rookie season of guys like Swift, Akers, Dobbins, they all took a bit of time to actually get going in fantasy. It was the second half of the season where they really stood out. I think as well, Najee's an older guy at 23. He should have a faster transition and be physically ready for the challenge a little bit quicker. But longer term, I'm still taking Etienne. I think it's pretty close. I have got him back to back, but Etienne, I like him because I think he's got that pass game usage and that explosiveness that gives him the edge for me.
Yeah, can't knock you at all, Kev. So with that, we'll move on to the 105. Who have you got, Ali?
It's Najee Harris. It's my running back one. So by quite some distance. So I like both of these guys. In fact, I like Javonte Williams as well. But for me, Najee landed in the dream landing spot. We all thought that Pittsburgh were after him, and that's where he landed. So I believe that they think Big Ben can't sustain the pass volume he had last year. So I think they're going to lean on Najee quite a lot. So he's going to get that heavy workload. So for year one, there's no reason why he can't be a top 10 running back. The only issue for me is their O-line. They didn't really do much to try and shore that up. But the volume's going to be there. So that's huge, really. And Najee can catch the ball out of the backfield. Like you said, Kev, the only question for me is his age. He's not going to be around probably as long as Etienne. But for the first 2 or 3 years you're going to have him, you're going to have elite production. So yeah, he's my running back one by quite a distance.
Yeah, he's my rookie running back one as well. I think that the land, even though Kev made me take Etienne in the Wildcard Dynasty League, but I'll let him have that one. Yeah, as you said, Ali, I think the landing spot's great. He's going to land with a head coach that's not going to be afraid to give him that heavy workload. And then obviously one thing that we know in fantasy, that volume is king when it comes to fantasy points. So for that reason, that's why I'm super excited about the landing spot. We've seen it numerous times before with the Steelers, Le'Veon Bell, even James Conner have all been great for fantasy when they've had that large workload. You mentioned the concern with the O-line. I think they did select a couple in round 3 and 4 in the draft. And it is a concern, but I think it's hard for us to predict how an O-line is going to be. I mean, we've seen it plenty of times where they struggle and then the following year things start to click and they improve. So I'm not going to hold it too much against him. He's obviously got that pass catching ability. We know, as you said, Big Ben, he's struggling with those deep balls with his old age. So Najee is going to be a great option for him, a great insurance policy. And I think, yeah, it can be great in fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, pick 5's his floor in Suplex rookie drafts, and I do believe he is a safer prospect than Etienne. He's guaranteed that volume from day one. Like it's been mentioned, there is concerns about the O-line and the long-term QB situation. What I've got to think as well is the Steelers are a pretty good franchise. They're always in the back half of round 1. They're always contesting to be in the playoffs or in the playoffs. So they're always going to be out of range for a top rookie QB, in my opinion. It just clouds it a bit. If you end up with Dwayne Haskins, it's going to be hilarious. But yeah, Harris, like we said, he's 23. He's beat up on younger guys in college, and midway through his rookie deal, he'll be starting on the downward slope of his career, I guess. So I do really like him. I think he's a true 3-down workhorse, and he's already an RB1 in my dynasty rankings. So my question to you, Ali, is if he declared last season, where would he rank versus that elite running back class?
So I'm probably going to sound a bit down on him, to be honest, but he'd be my running back 5 out of the class. I just think that class last year was so special. I think we'll be talking about that for years to come. So I've got JT, Jonathan Taylor, Swift, Gibson and Akers ahead of him, but he slots in ahead of Dobbins and Edwards-Helaire for me. I do really see his upside. I think you're going to get really elite production for 2 to 3 years. But yeah, he slots in as my RB5, so I'm high on him, but not quite as high as I am on the 2020 class.
Yeah, it's always going to be hard to be high on him in that class because, as you say, it was just an incredible running back class, weren't it? I think it's going to be one that we're going to look back on, as you say, for a long time and be excited about. So we'll move on to the 106. I've gone for Jamar Chase. I think it's time that I stop the slide now. I know it was 3. We all absolutely hated the landing spot. As big T Higgins lovers, he's landed in Cincinnati. It's what we really didn't want, but I think he's the best wide receiver in this class, so it'd be silly for me not to grab him at the 106. I think there's arguments that it could be the first non-quarterback to be taken in Superflex leagues. Obviously, we know wide receivers, they have that longevity that running backs maybe don't have. But yeah, with the Bengals, it's an offense that are going to have to throw the ball a lot, I believe. Obviously, that defense it's not great, and I think for that reason, there's going to be plenty of volume to go around. Which is obviously going to be great for us as Higgins lovers as well. I think we can have a fair share of Higgins and Chase getting a good amount of targets. I think that connection as well that he's obviously got with Joe Burrow, both playing at LSU, that's going to be amazing. We ain't got to worry about finding that chemistry and that connection during the off season. That we know they have it already. So again, I think that's why it can slot straight in and potentially be Burrow's favourite target on the Bengals and give us that fantasy production straight away. I just think it's great value in the middle of the first round.
Yeah, I actually think it's the perfect spot at 106. I have seen him go higher, but I think if he's going higher than this, you're taking him near his ceiling if you're comparing running backs to wide receivers and their values in respective startups. He is outside the top 5 or 6 in Dynasty, and I think when you get outside those top 5 or 6, there is similar values between the guys in the next 15 to 20 picks. But as a prospect himself, he's an absolute unicorn. He outproduced current Dynasty wide receiver 1 Justin Jefferson at a younger age at LSU. He's in a great landing spot in terms of familiarity with Joe Burrow. It's an ascending offense and tons of volume. There's not Hoovers like AJ Green ruining it for everybody. So yeah, there's no negatives in his rookie profile. I think he's an absolute fantastic prospect.
Yeah, it's a smash hit for me. I think I've been involved in 3 rookie drafts, and he's gone above the 106 in every single one of them. But I think you're right, Kev. If you're drafting him above the 106, he's got to produce sort of Justin Jefferson sort of figures to justify that, hasn't he? To be taken that high ahead of Najee or Etienne. But yeah, it was another hard one for me on draft night. With all my T Higgins shares, please don't take Chase. But I do think this offense can sustain at least 2 high-end fantasy producers. So I'm hoping it's going to be Chase and T Higgins. But I absolutely love Chase as a prospect, so I can't knock it. One of the most complete receivers that I've ever graded. And yeah, I've just seen him go higher than this in every single draft that I've been in. So yeah, it's a really good pick here. So just a quick question back to you, Matt. Do you think Chase finishes as the number 1 receiver on the Bengals in his rookie season?
Yeah, I kind of hinted it a little bit before. It really wouldn't surprise me, if I'm honest. I think with that connection that they've obviously had from their time at LSU, as I said, there's no need to build that chemistry. It's already there. They've not got to figure out how each other plays. They know. So I think he could definitely be the number 1 wide receiver on the Bengals. And I mean, let's not forget in 2019 at LSU when Burrow was the quarterback, Chase had just under 1,800 receiving yards and 20 touchdowns in 15 games. So we know the ceiling that he has, and with that connection, I definitely think he can. So with that, we're going to move swiftly on to the 107.
Yeah, that's me again, and I'm taking Zach Wilson. I think there's a clear gap between Zach Wilson and the other consensus top 3 rookie QBs. I'm not huge on his talent, but I do love the draft capital in being taken at pick 2. he joins an improving team and roster at the Jets. And we know that the value of QBs in Superflex leagues is huge. He's got rushability, he's got arm talent to give him a high ceiling, but he's also got high bust potential with the level of competition he faced and the in-pro style of play that he uses. He does get a bonus point, though, for taking 2 girls to prom.
It should be the 101 there. You hit the nail on the head for me, Kev. He's the next best quarterback, but he's miles behind the other 3 for me in terms of fantasy. Obviously, the Jets saw something in him that they really liked, and they ignored Lance and Fields. But he's going to be linked to them for forever now. Did the Jets make the right decision? We'll find out. So there is pressure on him to deliver, I think. But I do like his dual threat ability. But then he didn't play against the best competition in college, so we'll see how he steps up in the NFL. But yeah, I absolutely love the draft capital, and if I've got the 107 pick, I'm definitely I'm picking Zach Wilson as well.
Yeah, I think it's hard to pass up on a quarterback at this spot when you know he's going to be the guaranteed starter week 1. I mean, the Jets have clearly got that confidence in him because in the depth chart behind him, they've only got James Morgan and Mike White. Yeah, no idea who those guys are. So it just shows that he's guaranteed to be the starter week 1. So to get him at the 107, it feels like great value in a Superflex league. As you said, he looked great in 2020 with BYU. But as you both mentioned, that it's the level of competition. It was nothing special. So I think it's understandable to be slightly concerned moving from that and then to the NFL. But he does have some nice weapons. He's obviously got Denzel Mims, Corey Davis, and then rookie Elijah Moore. I think all 3 of those guys can help him succeed early. So Kev, Wilson's ADP is currently QB 17. But what do you think his ceiling could be in fantasy? Can he outperform that ADP?
Yeah, I actually think QB 17 is a little low for him. I've actually got him QB 15 ahead of guys such as Ryan Tannehill and Matt Stafford. From the mock draft, you can tell he's my rookie QB 4, but I do think he's a solid prospect when we look at everything. That draft capital I mentioned, the rush upside, the young weapons, and also no running back of consequence, wink, wink. He can absolutely be better than QB 17, though. He's got that huge potential. The only flip side is that he could be a lot worse than the QB 17 as well. So you have got to proceed with caution with Zach Wilson.
Yeah, I think you're right. So with that, we're going to move on to the 108. Who have you got, Ali?
Yeah, so I'm grabbing another unicorn. I'm grabbing Kyle Pitts, the tight end.
Ride that unicorn.
At the 108. Yeah, I've been at the 3 drafts I've been in so far. It's gone no later than the 106. So consensus is that everybody loves Kyle Pitts. So unsurprisingly, I haven't got any shares of him yet. But yeah, he's the best rookie tight end that I've ever analysed. He's more of a hybrid wide receiver, really. You can line him up anywhere. Just go for the matchup, and he'll bully defenders with his size and his quickness. He's my dynasty tight end 4 behind Kelsey, Kittle, and Waller. So he's slotted in quite high for me. And I think he contributes straight away. There's been rumblings this week that Julio Jones is on the trade block for the Falcons as they're a bit strapped for cash. So if there's a situation where he was traded away, then Pitts, really could deliver in year 1. But the 108, I'm happy to get him, even though he's a tight end. But he's unbelievable upside, and the fact that he's only 20 or 21 years old, you've got him for the next at least 10 years, haven't you?
Yeah, I agree. I think this is the perfect spot for Pitts behind the 7 guys that we've taken before him. As you mentioned, he's an unreal talent. He's an absolute physical specimen. I think they are going to use him in a variety of ways, like you mentioned, whether it be as a traditional tight end or in the slot role as well. The Julio situation is definitely going to be interesting. I mean, if he was to leave, then that opportunity for Pitts is going to be massive. I think he's going to be an instant red zone target for Matt Ryan with that size that he has. I think sometimes you worry about these guys coming from college to the NFL, but he's such an absolute beast. I don't have any concerns when it comes to him being used in the red zone. And yeah, I think he can produce right out of the gate.
Yeah, I love Pitts as a prospect. He's best college tight end of all time in my model. But 110 is slightly too early for me. Agreed is my tight end 4 in Dynasty, but have a look and see where tight end 4 goes in startups. It's after where our next 2 picks go. So from a value point of view, it is too early, but I do understand the upside, the allure with this unicorn as such. I think in certain Superflex leagues, you can take him here. It is all based on your roster or what exactly you need. But it is a bit of a luxury pick. I do think the hype is real, though. I don't imagine you'll see him going at the 108 or after in your drafts. And it's going to be at the detriment of guys like Travis Etienne and Zach Wilson as the fall guys. So just want to know, Ali, how high would you be taking Pitts in a tight end premium rookie draft compared to a non-tight end premium?
So definitely bump him up. I'd be tempted. He'd be in the same bracket as Chase and Najee Harris for me. So he'd probably be 104, round about that mark after the QBs. If I was sort of really desperate for a tight end, I'd take him over Zach Wilson for that 4th quarterback spot. So yeah, it'd probably feel like a reach. It'd feel bad for me not taking Chase or Najee, but in a tight end premium, if he really hits it off in the NFL, then you've got someone like a cheat code like Kelsey is. So probably the 104 would be my maximum.
Yeah, I think I'm not going to end up with any shares of him, if I'm honest, because I think it's that FOMO situation. I think there's always going to be someone in your league that's desperate to get him. So yeah, sadly, I don't think I'll be having any shares. So we'll move on to the 109, and I've gone for Javonte Williams. He's likely going to be in a timeshare with Melvin Gordon in 2021, but I think that's just giving you an opportunity to get him at a cheaper price, if I'm honest. The Broncos, they clearly wanted their guy. They moved up in the 2nd round to grab him. Gordon is unlikely to be around after next season. And I just think Williams has got all the qualities that you look for when you're looking for a workhorse with that size, and then his pass catching ability as well. He averaged just under 11 yards per reception in North Carolina, so he's definitely got the ability to get fantasy points through the air as well. And I just think he's going to be a rock solid fantasy running back. But you might just have to temper expectations for year 1 with Gordon still around.
Yeah, I love this pick, Matt. Well done. I think he's going to be one of the biggest values in rookie drafts this offseason is Javonte. Dynasty players do see this as a bad landing spot with Melvin Gordon there. However, so many players overvalue landing spot. It's the same mistake we make every year. DeAndre Swift, Keyshawn Vaughn spring to mind from last year. I mean, are we really worrying about a 28-year-old running back that's played 16 games once in his career? It's not redraft, is it? It's Dynasty. So, I mean, the Broncos took him at pick 35. It's the same pick Swift went last year, and this was before guys like Jonathan Taylor, Akers, Dobbins, etc. And I see him as an angry Kareem Hunt type player. I think he's super talented. I think he's more talented than Akers and Dobbins, actually, which say that however you want. But I do think the landing spot is actually better than those 2 guys. So if you're thinking logically, if you're getting him at the 109, this is Javonte Williams' smash draft.
Yeah, love it, Kev. It's my running back 3. It's pretty close between him and Etienne for me. And then there's a big gap to Michael Carter, who's running back 4. So yeah, the Broncos obviously saw, Melvin Gordon's replacement, and they jumped up in the draft to get him. He's my running back 18 at the minute in Dynasty. There's definitely scope for him to move up though. I've got him just behind Sanders and CEH, which doesn't feel great. But yeah, with Gordon being a free agent in 2022, I think it's perfectly set up for Williams to dominate down the stretch this season and take over the role next season. So throwing it back to you, Matt, you just picked him up at pick 9 in this draft. Is there a situation where you draft him any higher than pick 9 in rookie drafts?
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely take him at the 108 over somebody like Pitts if I need that running back. We know how quickly you can get a return from your rookie running back. So yeah, I think 108, potentially even maybe before Chase. I think it'd be close between those 2 guys. But that'd be my limit. I mean, I've got Harris and Etienne above him in my dynasty rankings. So yeah, I think 108 I'd be comfortable with. I could maybe push to 107, but I do tend to like getting somebody like Chase who it could be could be awesome at the wide receiver position, and with that longevity as well. I think that would maybe make me swing it back to Chase. But yeah, 108 and maybe 107 I'll go for. So we'll move on to the 110. Kev, who have you picked up at the 110 spot?
Yeah, I'm going for Mac Jones. Pick 10, I think, should be his floor. He shouldn't be dropping any further than this. He had a super impressive 2020 season. He won a national title at Alabama. He's a low in QB2 in my rankings due to the lack of rush floor. And it's not a great initial situation as a rookie, but what we've got to look at is he's a safe, steady prospect for a 5-year contract. And I think he's the ideal QB2 on the cheap because he's a starting guy that's going to be just solid, I think, throughout his career.
Yeah, it's one of them picks where you make it when all the other players in your draft have taken Chase and Pitts and Najee, but it's definitely the right one to take him at the 110. The concern with me is the lack of rushing ability. So he's never going to be anything more than a QB2. So I've got him ranked with Kirk Cousins and Derek Carr, so fairly low down. But he's definitely going to be cheap. But he's a winner. His 2020 season was incredibly impressive. He's obviously going to have to compete with Cam, so we'll have to see how that plays out. 2 completely different quarterbacks. Safe is the word here. It's anything but exciting, but in Superflex we know that quarterbacks are king. So to get one here who could potentially be a starter at the 110 is good value.
Yeah, I think I'm like you too. I think it's the rushing is what concerns when it comes to him as a fantasy quarterback, and that's why I would fade him. I think he's got to be an elite passer for him to be that desired fantasy asset that we want, and I think that's asking a lot of him. He's on an offense where I don't think he has the best pass catching weapons, in all honesty. Obviously they've made moves in the off season, but I wouldn't say it's anything spectacular. I do agree that I think it's the right selection at this point in a Superflex league. It's just one of those picks that you say you're not going to be excited to make it, but it's safe and it's probably the right pick to make. So Kev, do you think Jones is going to be the starter week 1? I think that's the question. If not, how long do you think it takes for him to dethrone Cam Newton?
I mean, first of all, it's tough to get a gauge on Bill Belichick, what he's going to do, because he had Tom Brady for 20 years. There was never any sort of thoughts about QB competitions or when a new QB will start. In my opinion, though, I do think Cam starts the season. You lean towards a veteran. And plus, you got to give him a chance. He had a horrible situation in 2020 with the weapons, the injury, COVID, etc. So I think he will get the first shot. It's an improved but not great supporting cast, but just Mac Jones. I think he could be the last of the 5 rookies to get starts, which shouldn't be a shock considering it was the 5th rookie taken.
Yeah, I agree. So with that, we're going to move straight on to the 111. Who have you gone for, Ali?
It's DeVonta Smith for your Eagles, Kev. I'm probably a bit higher on Smith than consensus. I absolutely loved him. Watching him dominate last season on the way to the Heisman, it's probably not the perfect landing spot, but it is somewhere where he can be the guy right away. I've got him being the wide receiver 1 on the team from his rookie season. Certainly no issues with his slim build. I wish I had that problem as well. He does link up with his college quarterback Hurts, although I don't see Hurts being the long-term answer for Philadelphia. I think we're all in agreement there. And I honestly I think that Smith can really dominate this offense from his rookie season. So he could have a really decent season right out the gate.
Yeah, he's my rookie wide receiver 3. He definitely has that big playability. But I do have my concerns with him. You mentioned the size. I do see that as a bit of a concern. I think it's one thing to be dominant in college, but then to be that size and coming into the NFL, I think it's going to be a whole different ball game for him. And then the big thing for me, it was something that I preached before the draft. I think whoever the Eagles selected, I was always going to slightly fade him just because I'm not a believer at all in Hurts, and that passing ability that he has. He's shown his inconsistency last year, and for that reason, I think that's why I'm fading him. He definitely has the opportunity. There's no disagreeing that he doesn't have a great opportunity, and he probably will be the wide receiver one on that team. It's just a quarterback play for me that puts me off, and just the Eagles as a whole and what they're doing as a franchise, I think it opens up reasons to be concerned.
Yeah, I think purely on my college model is miles clear of rookie wide receiver 3. However, I think that there is some concerns about late breakout age and beating up on kids like Najee. I've got Smith closer to guys like his former college teammate Jaylen Waddle, who we might see very soon. I think 111 is the right spot for him, and I'm happy to take a punt on the talent at this stage of the draft. It's also worth seeing if you can trade off from this pick to a veteran wide receiver. Having a look at startup ADP, if you can flip the 111 for a guy above him in rankings like Jerry Jeudy or Cortland Sutton, I'd be all over that. So I just want to know, Ali, what do you think he will be the top scoring Eagles wide receiver this season?
I can't see how he's not the top scorer this season, to be honest. I'm not going to write off Jalen Reagor just yet because I was fairly high on him last year. But what we saw in 2020 was a bit uninspiring, to be honest. Other than that, you got the likes of Greg Ward, Travis Fulgham, who had that amazing 4-week stretch and then disappeared, or JJ Arthur-Whiteside. So what a receiver room that is. So I honestly can't see how he's not the top scorer. So in that way, I'll bump him up my rankings because he's going to have a decent rookie season, I think.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And we'll move on to the next pick because Kev teed me up nicely. It's the 112, and I've gone for Jaylen Waddle. He is my wide receiver too, so I was happy to grab him at the end of the first round. He's obviously got that great draft capital. Anyway, one pick after Jamar Chase at pick 6, so I think that just shows the level of quality that the Dolphins believe that he has. He's linking up again with Tua, who we know they spent time together at Alabama. He's going to be an explosive weapon. He's versatile, so I believe they're going to be able to use him in numerous ways. And I just expect Tua and this whole offense to take a jump forward next year. And with that, I think it's going to be great for Waddle. I think he's going to be a key part of this offense next year.
Yeah, like you said, it's the perfect landing spot list with 2 or 3 for the Alabama boys, whether it had been Smith or with it being Waddle. Linking up with the former college QB, the early draft capital, the clear pathway to an alpha role for next season. Essentially, they gave up an extra first rounder to jump up and get their guy as well. So in my rankings, he actually flipped with Bateman as my wide receiver 4. I really like this pick, and I'm getting more and more excited every day, but I still don't think it'll be my rookie wide receiver 3, though.
Yeah, I absolutely love the pick here, Matt. I think this could be a home run hit. My little bit of a hot take is I think Waddle could be the steal of the entire draft, especially at the back end of the first. You got to love that draft capital. The news coming out is the Dolphins wanted Waddle over Chase regardless, which
Idiots.
I'm not quite sure. I believe. Yeah, he jumped Bateman to be my wide receiver 3. And I've just picked up my first share, and it was at the 112. So I think this is about right, and it's really good value. So just back to you, Matt. Do you think Waddle's going to end up the number 1 receiver on the Dolphins? I know they signed Will Fuller, and they've still got Devontae Parker there.
I mean, again, I wouldn't be surprised to see him be the most targeted player. As we said, the connection that he's already got with Tua, he's got that chemistry. I think Will Fuller, he's going to be more of the big play, the field stretcher on the team. I think Parker's still going to get his fair share. But with Waddle, if he fits into that slot role, I can see Tua targeting plenty next year. So I'll quickly recap the first round. We went Trevor Lawrence, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Travis Etienne, Najee Harris, Jamar Chase, Wilson, Pitts, Williams, Jones, Smith, and Waddle. So before we crack on with round 2, I just want to give a shout out to a sponsor, Silver FX. They're the leading supplier of bespoke teamwear, including podcasts, sports clubs, universities, and schools. Choose from Silver FX own bespoke range, their modified designs, or you can customize your own from scratch. We at the Fantasy Wildcard, we have this very own merchandise store we're bringing you his fantastic logo branded across several quality items, including hoodies, hats, jackets, t-shirts, and shorts, plus many more. So be sure to check out SilverFX on Twitter at silverfx_sports and their website www.silverfx.co.uk. Thank you. So with round 1 in the books, we're going to move swiftly on to round 2. Kev, who are you taking at the 201 spot?
Yeah, it's my wide receiver 3, a guy who I absolutely love, actually. It's Terrace Marshall. Perfect landing spot for my rookie wide receiver 3. It reunites with his college coach in Joe Brady. Clear path to being a starter as a rookie. He's going to be in 2 wide receiver sets from year 2. One's Robbie Anderson, Boggs off. So much intrigue with Terrace Marshall. He's got such an amazing potential, but there is concerns with why he did slide in the draft. Why absolute scrubs like Tutu Atwell and Dwayne Eskridge went above him. He's got to think a little bit about that, but I think he's got absolutely massive potential. He played behind stars at LSU in Jefferson and Chase. He's young, big. He's a fast alpha. I mean, if there's one piece of advice I could give anybody, it'd be to get on the terrace.
Love it. Yeah, I absolutely love his talent. He's definitely overshadowed by Jefferson and Chase, but we saw what he could do when they weren't in the lineup. I think the injury concern is what saw him slide, but I didn't expect him to slide just that far. And I love the fact he's reunited with his old coach. I actually did drop him down a couple of spots for me. I think the Moors jumped up ahead of him. And I'd personally pick someone like Bateman or one of the Moors at this position, but I can certainly see why you've picked him, why you've got on the terrace. And
yes.
His potential is huge. So if he can stay injury free, then yeah, I can definitely see him dominating in this offense.
Yeah, I really like Marshall as well as a player. I think the landing spot, it could be great for him. I like the offense that Matt Rule and Joe Brady are putting together over in Carolina. I mean, we're hoping and we're praying that quarterback Sam Darnold can show that ability that we think he has when he links up with the Panthers, and hopefully that can unlock Marshall and the rest of this offense. As you mentioned, the linking up with Joe Brady, I think that's gonna be great for Marshall. I think he's going to see opportunities early, and then obviously we know Robbie Anderson is a potential free agent in 2022, so it could be in line for an even larger role beyond next season. So Kev, what kind of impact do you think he can make year 1, or do you think he needs Robbie Anderson to move away before he can become fantasy relevant?
No, I think he's an immediate starter in 3 wide receiver sets for the Panthers. I know David Moore was signed from the Seahawks, but he's not on a massive deal. Plus, like we've said, Marshall's familiar with OC Joe Brady from their time at LSU, so it could be a smoother transition than a normal rookie. We saw that the Panthers had 3 top 25 wide receivers last season in DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, and Curtis Samuel. So I'm not saying Marshall can be a top 25 wide receiver this season, but I wouldn't be shocked if he's a low-end wide receiver 3 as a rookie. And just once again, in case you missed it, get on the terrace.
I love it. Right, so we'll move swiftly on to the 202. Ali, who have you gone for here?
Yeah, so just to darken the mood a bit, we come to the wide receiver graveyard with Rashod Bateman. And I actually love the fact that he's tumbling down draft boards as low as sort of the early to mid-second round. It means that I can scoop him up in all my drafts, and I'm really happy with that. So to get him here, I'm delighted. I absolutely love his talent. He's clearly going to be the number 1 wide receiver in the offense, but the fact that it's a low pass offense lowers the ceiling for sure. He's my rookie wide receiver 4, so I think I've got him 1 spot higher than you guys. And in Dynasty, I think I've got him ranked as a low wide receiver 2, around the 24 spot. But I think that represents decent value here, being the number 1 on the team. If they do ever change approach or fall behind in a few games, and then there's going to be some volume for him. So yeah, I'm happy at the 202 to pick up Bateman here.
Yeah, I think this landing spot was always going to be one that we hated from fantasy. I know it's funny, we always say don't overreact to the landing spots, but I think you've got to when it comes to this offense, just purely because of the pass volume that the Ravens have. But I mean, he was a first round pick at pick 27. I think he's going to get that opportunity straight away. That they're not going to use a first round pick on him just to be sat on the bench. So I think he's got that immediate opportunity. He's got the ability to be that alpha, and he could be one of Lamar Jackson's top targets. And he's also going to be a red zone threat alongside Mark Andrews at the tight end position. So that's obviously going to be great for fantasy. I just think that the ceiling, I think it's going to be capped. As I say, because of the offense, but I think it could be a solid wide receiver too in fantasy. And if you're getting him at this point, I think that's great value.
Yeah, I know we laughed at Bateman on the last show, but this landing spot does stink. I've seen the AJ Brown comparisons about poor landing spot, low volume, etc. But that's absolutely clutching at straws. It's nearly as bad as the James Robinson truthers out there. Bateman is not AJ Brown. He's not as good. It's a lower volume offense. There's way more competition than AJ Brown had. And this is an offense that works being run heavy. There's no need to change it a ton. I know he's a round one wide receiver, but so is Marquise Brown. Everyone seems to think it's an automatic that he crushes him and he's the number one alpha from day one. So just to tie that in with your thoughts, Ali, how long do you think it is before Bateman does become the alpha, and what is his ceiling in Dynasty?
I don't think it takes him too long. Obviously, Hollywood Brown has had the years with Lamar now, so they've got that rapport going. But I think his all-round game is better than Hollywood Brown. But yeah, his ceiling's always going to be capped, whether he's the number one or number two or even number three. If Andrews is still, high volume, then it's always going to be capped with a run first offense. They're not going to change it, not now. It's worked so well the last two seasons, so I think his ceiling in Dynasty is always going to be capped. I don't think he can reach wide receiver one. In fact, he's probably going to be more low wide receiver two, sort of wide receiver three sort of area.
Yeah, I just wish he landed somewhere else, if I'm honest. He's killed one of his favourite wide receivers in fantasy, so RIP, as you said, Ali. So we're going to move on to the 203, and it's my pick, and it's finally happened. I've gone for Michael Carter here at the 203. I'm going to keep it short and sweet this week because Kev let me know that I was the most annoying man on the planet last week, and I spoke about Michael Carter, so short and sweet one. He fits into this offense perfectly with that burst and short areas agility that he's got. He's going to contribute as a pass catcher as well. And he's just got that clear role. The competition he's facing, Ty Johnson, Michael Pirine and Tevin Coleman, I believe he can beat any of those guys out. And it sounds like the Jets wanted to get him in the third. I've seen videos on Twitter going around saying that they thought the third round it was a struggle watching him still on the board and praying that he fell to him. So I think there's potential that they had that day 2 grade on him, which is great. Obviously, he went in the 4th round. But it's always nice to know that they thought a little bit higher of him. But yeah, that's it. That's all I'll say on the matter.
Yeah, me and Matt fell out last week when I publicly shamed him for having Carter in round one of his consensus.
No shame. There was no shame.
But we have made up. We're good friends. But I'm going to try and put it to the test again right here. I know he can get a bit angry, so I'll try to be nice. I don't hate him in a couple of picks' time, but I've got the Moore brothers ahead of him. I mean, it's concerning that no team on day 2 took Carter. I think the Jet storyline is plausible. They could have had a day 2 grade on him, but with him being a day 3 pick, I do think it makes him a low chance of being a success. In my eyes, he is Devin Singletary 2.0. I think he will have success as a rookie, but then he will face more competition with better draft capital and talent next offseason.
Yeah, for all the hatred I have for Michael Carter, just purely because you love him, Matt. It's
good to know you. It's good to know your friends you've got, isn't it? When they both want you to fail.
This is the perfect spot to be taken, I think. Early to mid second is just right for Carter. Although I agree with Kev, I'd have one of the Moors over Carter in this spot. All of my rookie drafts so far, quite interestingly, have had Sermon go ahead of Carter, but I'm not on board with that, Matt. Don't worry, I'm with you here.
Agreed.
I think the landing spot's really good. Obviously, not the draft capital's not. He's automatically the most talented running back on the Jets. So, can he be the lead back in a committee? Well, absolutely. He had an awesome last season at North Carolina. I'm just glad you didn't take him in the first round. So, question for you, Matt. What do you think Carter's ceiling is in year 1 on the Jets?
I think it can be an RB2 next year. It's going to be interesting to see how they use him. But if he can get a role where he sees 10, 11, 12 carries and then 4 or 5 receptions, I think he can make the most of that opportunity. He's not somebody that needs that heavy workload. He averaged 8 yards per carry and just under 11 yards per reception in 2020 with North Carolina. I think that just shows that the big playability that he has, even on if it is a limited amount of touches. So, yeah, I'm going to stick with my boy. I think RB2. I think he can achieve that next year. So we'll move on then before we fall out again, and we'll go on to the 204. Kev, who have you gone for at the 204 spot?
Yeah, I'm taking Elijah Moore here. It was a close call between him and Rondale, but I went for the volume play. He's a smaller, rapid slot receiver type. PlayerProfile.com's got him compared to Tyler Lockett, which I think's interesting and fair. I think it's a wide open offense for an alpha to emerge at the Jets. So solid wide receiver 2 type, solid wide receiver 2-3 type for me in fantasy.
Yeah, I absolutely love the pick of Elijah here at 204. It'd be exactly what I'd be doing. It's an upgrade on Jamison Crowder, who I believe is on the books for something like $11 million this season. So I can't see that happening. I think it's going to be a PPR machine on the Jets. It's going to be one of the safest picks for me. You will get in round 2. Didn't really see many weaknesses in his game, and he tested off the charts. So for me, he could well outperform this current ADP. So I think it's a home run hit here, Kev.
Yeah, I definitely agree that I think it's a safe bet taking Elijah Moore here. Should see that volume, as you said. I fully expected to move on for Crowder. I think it makes sense given the cap space that they'd save if they cut him or potentially traded him. And I think it's good to see that obviously Zach Wilson, they've linked up together. We've seen all the videos on Twitter, getting everybody excited on Twitter. So it's good to see that they're linking up together this early and building up that chemistry. Yeah, I agree. I think he's going to be a great playmaker out of the slot and a really solid fantasy asset. But Kev, I just wanted to know, does the landing spot present any concerns? Obviously, there's the rookie quarterback. There's the new coaching staff over at the Jets. Are you concerned at all?
No concerns for me due to the nature of Moore's play, that he's a low-risk role in the slot. I think if you're an outside wide receiver, you need more in your favour to be a success. Rookie QB in Zach Wilson isn't ideal, but it's good news that they're both rookies and they're together there for the next 4 years. So it's a great chance for them to build some chemistry and grow together. The coaching staff had success with guys who play near the slot and the line of scrimmage in Debo and Ayuk. So overall, I think it's a great spot. We'll just need Crowder to be moved on. Otherwise, it's going to dampen everything in the short term.
Yeah, fully agree. So we're gonna move on to the 205. Ali, who have you gone for?
It's you can't have too many Moores, can you? It's Rondale Moore. And again, in the drafts that I've been involved in, he's gone higher than the 205. So I think it's a no-brainer to take him in this position. He's got huge upside, and I really like the landing spot on the Cardinals. The only thing that dampers it really is his injury history. Is definitely a concern. But obviously the Cardinals have done their homework and drafted him, and I think it's going to be a great compliment to Nuke Hopkins. I really think he can hit the ground running and produce in 2021. He's the after the catch yardage specialist. Just give him the ball and he'll work his magic. So I'm excited to get him at the 205.
Yeah, I absolutely love Rondale Moore, and I love this pick, Ali, at this point. It feels low risk to me. I mean, middle of the second round, somebody who could have a huge ceiling when it comes to fantasy. I think people are forgetting just how dominant he was in college with 1,200 receiving yards and 12 touchdowns, and that was as a freshman. So I think that just goes to show that the talent that he has is versatile. I think they're going to use him in a number of ways, whether that be in the slot or running jet sweeps, screens, even taking carries out of the backfield. I think they're going to use him all over in this offense. And then just touching on the offense, it's a high-powered, high-tempo offense. It's everything you look for when you're looking for a fantasy asset. So I do believe he's going to see plenty of opportunities in 2021. The big concern is obviously the injuries. He's only played 7 games in the last 2 seasons, but I'm happy to take a risk at him at this point for the potential upside that he has.
Yeah, I really like the value on Rondale here. I think it should be going ahead of any running back outside the clear big three. Very exciting prospect, super early breakout age and production. And he lands in a spot tied to an ascending QB in Kyler, and he's only got to beat out at this point in Christian Kirk for a full-time slot role. Like we said, he's short and stocky. I think you called him a vending machine or something a few episodes ago, Matt.
Not quite.
But yeah, I guess with him being short and stocky, it matters a lot less if you're working in the slot near the line of scrimmage. You don't need to be 6'4" running down the field here. So my question for you, Ali, is what sort of fantasy career do you think would be considered a success for Rondale Moore?
It's a good question. I think he could finish as a probably not an all-time great, but he could have a really good career. Although just with his skill set, it's just such a different receiver than what we normally see. He's short, stocky, so quick, he's strong. He's never going to be a target hog on this offense, but then I don't think he needs high volume to succeed. Sort of guy he can catch 4 passes for 80 yards and a touchdown. My obvious comp is Steve Smith, the Panthers great, which is obviously high praise. I see a lot of Smith in Rondale. Obviously, we can't just expect that production, but the upside is huge if he can stay healthy. I can't see any reason why he can't have a similar career to Steve Smith.
I love it. The grill's turning up the heat with that comp. Love it.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll move on to the 206, and this was my pick, and I went for Trey Sermon. Wasn't the biggest fan of his leading up to the draft. I've got concerns that he obviously transferred from Oklahoma to Ohio State after losing playing time to Kennedy Brooks, and obviously that he then landed in a great spot in Ohio State. But he was selected in the 3rd round. He's in this offense that we know it can be great in terms of fantasy for the starting running back. He's got great size. He can definitely carry a heavy workload. But he's going to have competition for touches. It's a crowded backfield. But I think at this spot, I'm happy to draft him. I'm willing to take a chance that it can return value if he does become the starter.
Yeah, I'm fine with Sermon here as well. I've got no issue with anyone taking Sermon over Michael Carter. Just kidding.
We need a counter. How many times you're going to slag Carter off in this show?
No, I think honestly, I do think it is closer between Sermon and Carter. I've got Carter slightly ahead, but I mean, you look at Sermon. He's got better draft capital. He's been acquired through a trade up. The 49ers are a better team. Although the flip side is there's more competition for touches. Running back's so gross that guys like Sermon and Carter are going to jump up boards a little, but they're not bets I ideally want to make unless I'm desperate. But I do think Sermon can give you a top 25 season if he gets given that starter type volume.
Yeah, this is where Sermon he comes into play for me at this pick, middle to the back of the 2nd. I wasn't massively high on Sermon pre-draft, but I don't think the landing spot could have been any better really. They traded up to get him, so it's definitely worth the pick here. And then if he emerges as the leader of a committee on a really good running team, then just look out. His value's going to shoot up. So the range of possibilities here is vast for Sermon. Definitely top 24 upside, so it's definitely worth a pick here. It's just a question for you, Matt. It's a bit of a made-up scenario. If the worst case happens and you get sniped for Michael Carter at the beginning of round 2, are you happy to draft Sermon in the next spot, or would you look to draft a different position?
I'll have probably left the league. I've got the hump on that I couldn't get Carter. No, probably not. If I'm being honest, if I miss out on Carter, I'd rather take a chance on the potential upside of somebody like we just mentioned with Rondale Moore or Elijah Moore, and then I'd probably go for Sermon after those guys. He's not somebody that I'm super excited about, but as I say, I think if you can get him in the middle of the 2nd round, I think that he can have a great return on the investment you've made in him. I just think the mid-2nd that feels about right for where I'd be happy to take him. So 207 up next, Kev. Who have you gone for?
Yeah, it's after 206 it gets really messy really quick. I don't like this guy, but I've gone for Kadarius Toney. I mean, his profile, apart from the athleticism and the draft capital, it's pretty dogged, to be honest. Seen plenty of guys like him that have busted in the NFL. John Ross, Tavon Austin, possibly Henry Ruggs as well. We'll have to see how that one pans out. But it's that territory of the draft, so it is worth taking a shot on a guy with first-round draft capital. I'm going to take one share of him just in case, but otherwise I'll probably mix it up and take a variety of guys in this range, including the next couple of guys we talk about.
Yeah, Tony, I do like the talent, and I love the draft capital that it comes with, but I don't love the landing spot. There's a lot of mouths to feed in the offense, and we know how surprising the pick was when it was made. And like you say, Cave, once you get past the middle of the second round, the chances of hitting on a player, I think, have become rather slim. But I think Tony's probably got the best chance of the lot. Having the first round draft capital, they're going to 100% want to get him involved. So this is probably the earliest I would draft Tony, but I would be happy to take him here. In fact, I did pick him up at the 212 in one of my drafts. So that's maybe my only share I'm going to get, but I'm definitely happy with that.
Yeah, I think I agree with what you said at the start, Kev, that I think there's definitely a drop-off at talent when you get to around this spot. But based purely on draft capital alone, I think Tony's worth taking a shot on here. I think he's at least going to get a chance with the Giants. I don't think they're going to spend that first-round pick on a guy just to let him sit on the bench. So I do think he's going to get opportunity early, but he's versatile. It's going to be interesting to see how they do use him with the Giants and how they're going to get the ball in his hands. But I think he's a potential boom or bust player. But as I say, worth the shot, I think, at the 207. So, Kev, do you think we're going to have to wait until Sterling Shepard moves on before Tony becomes fantasy relevant, or do you think it can manage to be relevant?
Not totally sure how he'll be used immediately, but if I'm a Darius Slayton owner, I'm worried. Mm-hmm. He seems like the logical fall guy to me out of the starting lineup. He's only got fifth round draft capital, and he's got no ties to current coach Joe Judge. My guess is that by mid-season, Tony's cracked that 3 wide receiver sets at the expense of Slayton. I do actually think Shepard's an underrated guy who should be kept around and used by the Giants.
Yeah, I just think it'll be interesting who they put in the slot. I mean, Shepard's look better in the slot, but yeah, he's played outside, so I can see him going outside and Tony in the slot. So we'll move on to 208. Ali, who have you gone for at the 208 spot?
So I've gone for the wide receiver one of the Detroit Lions. I've gone for Amon-Ra St. Brown. The draft capital was disappointing, but the landing spot was absolutely superb. It was a guy I was pretty bullish on, actually, pre-draft, so I'm even more so now. I think he's got immediate route to fantasy relevance. His competition is Rashod Bateman. I think he's a sleeper this season. Terrell Williams and Quintez Cephas. So really, there's not that much competition. And I'm absolutely happy to take him at the 208. I'd probably take him as early as the 206. So yeah, that's. I'm definitely happy at this position.
Yeah, I was like you, Ali. I was quite high on him coming into the draft, so it was disappointing to see him slide into the fourth round. But as you say, that the opportunity he's got, it's going to be great in Detroit. The wide receiver core, it's full of cheap veteran options such as Perriman and Williams, and when we know volume, it's king for fantasy. So you could see plenty of it, I believe, with those guys to compete against. The Lions are likely going to have to throw it a lot, but they're going to be chasing games. So there's potential for those garbage time fantasy points on this offense too, which is obviously going to be great for us. We just need Goff to be serviceable in 2021, and if he is, I think St. Brown can have a really strong rookie season.
Yeah, this is an ideal spot for ASB. That's what I'm going to call him, ASB. It's an ideal spot for me in rookie drafts, and this is actually a pretty close call with Kadarius Toney at my previous pick. It's mainly about situation for me. There's no real competition for volume outside of Swift and Hawkinson. I mean, you touched upon it a little bit earlier. He's facing competition from guys like Quintez Cephas, which he sounds like an STD, doesn't he, if we're being honest? I think ASB reminds me a bit of former USC wide receiver Bobby Woods. We know that new Lions QB Jared Goff had a ton of success with Woods for the Rams. So yeah, he is an interesting guy. He is ASB. He's got that clear pathway to lead the team in targets if he is good enough. So question for you, Ella, do you think there's a sneaky chance that he is the top rookie wide receiver? And should we be considering him higher because of this?
Oh, it's a really good question, actually. It's not one that I've thought of, but I think, although I think he's definitely going to be near the top of the rookies for targets, I don't expect him to be the rookie number one. But certainly because of volume wise, I think he could definitely be near the top, especially in touchdowns. Trouble is, I'm so far out on Jared Goff on the Lions. I think it's going to be a bit of a disaster for him this season. The only positive is that they've really improved their O-line. In fact, they think it's the best in the NFL. So we'll see about that. But I do think he outperforms his rookie ranking, though. So there is a chance that he definitely finishes in the top sort of 5, 6, 7 wide receivers.
Yeah, don't hate it at all. So with that, we'll move on to the 209. I've gone for a little bit of a curveball here. I've gone for Pat Frymouth. I am going to put a disclaimer out before I start talking about him. I'm not one to do this and grab a tight end over wide receivers and running backs in my rookie drafts. But I do think that there's a big tier gap now when it comes to the wide receivers and running backs. So I'm happy to take a stab at tight end at this spot. And I think he's pretty underrated, to be honest. I think obviously all the attention around Kyle Pitts, I think it's allowing him to sneak under radars a little bit. Picked in the second round by the Steelers. It's a pass-heavy offense, although I do think, obviously now they've got Najee Harris, they start running the ball a little bit more, but I just think that's going to help the offense as a whole, if I'm honest, with a more rounded offense. He's going to be the best blocking tight end as well on the roster, so I think that's going to lead to opportunities for him to at least get snaps, and we know he's a great receiver as well, so with that, I think there's definitely opportunity for him to see volume, and his nickname's Baby Gronk. I think there's a reason behind it. Yeah,
we should have known you were going to go tight end, Matt. I know you're a big fan of tight ends in your drafts. But yeah, I think it's hard for to take on day one tight end this early in rookie drafts. But like you said, we know the second half round two, it's full of dart throws and landmines. The clear tight end two in this class and an easy pathway to success beyond Eric Ebron. I'm not one who usually goes for rookie tight ends unless the first round real life selections, or if I'm looking to take them and then flip them for a bit of value. So I guess the only other point I've got on Frymouth is loads of tight ends have been nicknamed Baby Gronk. Big Rob Bus get about.
Yeah, love it. I don't hate this pick, to be honest, Matt.
Thanks.
If you just look at the names, the list of names to come, it's not too much of a reach for me. At this position, you're facing. Do you pick the running back 7? Do you pick the wide receiver 10, or do you go for the tight end 2? So I don't hate it. The Steelers have invested a second round into him, and I think he's going to be the guy once Ebron leaves. Personally, I think Frymouth will be asked to block a lot in year one because of the fact that of the O-line issues. But this is Dynasty, so in year 2 onwards, he could flourish. So you've got him for cheap here. So just a question for you, Matt. We know the Steelers have a really high, heavy pass offense. So do you see Frymouth can contribute much in year 1?
I mean, it is always tough, isn't it? When we talk about rookie tight ends, we know they take time to develop. But I think with that blocking ability that he has, the Steelers, we know they're going to want to run the ball a little bit more. So he's going to see the field more. They use 12 personnel a lot as well. So him and Ebron can both see the field, and that's going to lead to opportunities for him. He's got that size, so he can be a red zone threat for Big Ben. I believe he could have a bit of a Cole Kmet type season where he starts making an impact more towards the second half of the season. So Kev, if you don't like the nickname Baby Gronk, I've just thought of another one. We'll have to start calling him Postman Pat when he starts delivering. And with that, we'll move swiftly on after that. I've turned into Kevin the terrible jokes now. So we'll move on to the 201. Kev, who have you gone for?
Postman Patter, wow. 210, I'm going to be taking Nico Collins. I love this value, actually, my rookie wide receiver 9. Big, fast, athletic dude with early college production, but he couldn't showcase his full potential due to the horrific QB play at Michigan. I think he lands in a great spot for opportunity with the Texans. He's likely going to be a starter as a rookie. The long-term QB concern does exist, but you've got to take that early volume. It gives you options in terms of potentially trading him moving forward.
Yeah, for me, it's similar to the St. Brown pick earlier. I think it's a perfect landing spot for Collins to be able to produce in year one. So there's that immediate path to relevance, which is what you want at this late in the draft. The Texans moved up and they actually gave up quite a lot to secure Collins in the 3rd round. So I'm absolutely fully on board with this pick. And for some reason, the community seems quite down on Collins. A lot of the time he's been taken in the 3rd round. So, but I like him at the back end of the 2nd, definitely.
Yeah, I think he's definitely got an opportunity to see targets in this offense with the lack of depth that they have at wide receiver. I think the uncertainty, though, it is the quarterback. I think that is a big concern. And as you mentioned, Kev, that's what held him back in college. So that would be what concerns me. But to be honest, I don't think there was many more landing spots where a rookie wide receiver could land and see this level of opportunity. So it could potentially turn into great value at the 210. Is somebody I'm happy to target around this spot. I've even seen him going in the 3rd round in a lot of my rookie drafts, which just feels like crazy value for the potential early return you can get on him. So Kev, as I've mentioned, they love this landing spot because of the opportunity. But how much does the quarterback play concern you if it is Tyrod Taylor or rookie Davis Mills throwing him the ball?
I mean, I'm a big Tyrod fan, but we won't talk about that. The QB play does worry me. I'd much rather it be Deshaun Watson, to be honest. I think, like Alice said, similar to ASB, the volume's great. It's on a bad team. There's not a ton of weapons. I think the volume can negate bad QB play in the short term, but I think you have got to be worried longer term. I'm still not sold on Nico Collins longer term, and I would be very happy if I could get some early success from him and move him for a mid to high 2nd next year, because that class looks really nice. And it's something to consider with both Collins and ASB if they do hit early on, to look to flip them for future picks next year.
Yeah, I think that's a great point to make, Kev.
Thank you.
211, Ali, who have you got? Who's your last pick?
So it's not necessarily someone I would be picking here, but it's someone that I wanted to talk about, someone that I've talked extensively about as being quite high on before the draft as a late sleeper. And it's Amari Rodgers for the Packers. Obviously, with the news going on about Rodgers, I really thought we were going to get A Rodgers to A Rodgers. And the fact that I love Amari Rodgers, but it looks like we could be getting love to Rodgers. So, but even if Rodgers stays, this is a reach for me in the 2nd round. But I did want to mention him. He's another one of those a bit similar to ASB and Nico Collins. He got a good landing spot. We've been saying for years that the Packers need to draft a wide receiver early. Well, again, they didn't, but Amari Rodgers was the first wide receiver they've taken. So he's going to get chances. He's that smaller receiver, but he can do damage with the ball in his hands. I think he's good. He could be a good complement to Davante Adams. I picked him up in one of my drafts, and I'm just happy to stash him and just see what plays out. I think you're not going to expect anybody to produce straight away at this pick at the back end of the 2nd, but I'm happy just to take him and just see what develops, really.
Yeah, I mean, is another player that potentially lands in a great spot with not much depth at the wide receiver position behind Davante Adams. Obviously, the Aaron Rodgers drama is a concern, and if he does leave, I think this whole Packers offense is going to take a massive hit. But yeah, Amari, it should be a great fit. He's going to get straight into that slot role. He's drawing comparisons to Randall Cobb and his time in Green Bay, and with the size and ability that he has to make yards after the catch. So if he can become anything like Randall Cobb, we've got a hit at this point in your rookie drafts. He's more like a wide receiver, but in a running back's body. So yeah, I think he can make big plays once he's got the ball in his hands.
Yeah, he's an interesting dart thrower. I don't actually trust LaFleur to use him effectively, though. I think LaFleur's massively overrated, and his success has been on the back of a Hall of Fame QB. I think if Aaron Rodgers does move on, this is a 6-10 type team, in my opinion. So I'd be worried about going after any Packers players right now. Having said that, I did draft Aaron Rodgers in the Dynasty Wildcard League, but anyone else I'd be worried about. Just a question for you, Ali. How much would moving on from Aaron Rodgers actually hurt his dynasty stock if you did take him as a rookie?
I think it's deeply concerning for all Packers players. I'm absolutely petrified if I'm holding any Davante Adams shares because he's not going to be the same player. Where you got to draft him, if there's another QB in there, it's not going to be the same. But in terms of Amari Rodgers, I'm not too concerned. I think 99 times out of 100, he goes in round 3. So if you're expecting any sort of elite production from any of these players, then you're rather misled. So I'm not too concerned. I think regardless of the quarterback, there's going to be a chance for Rodgers to show what he can do. His competition's not really the best. You've got players like MVS and Alan Lazard, who I've never been the biggest fan of. So I'm not too concerned at where I'm taking Rodgers in the draft. I'm not too concerned if Aaron Rodgers does end up leaving Green Bay.
Yeah, we just need to hope he don't leave, don't we? And then we've got a nice pick here at the end of the second round. So with the final pick, I've gone for De'Ami Brown. I love the value that you're getting here on this guy at the end of the second. I think he's going to be a great piece in this offense. He's likely going to be working on the outside opposite Terry McLaurin. But we know we've got Fitzmagic at quarterback, who we know is not afraid to throw the occasional deep ball. I do have my concerns about the consistency he can have as a weekly starter, but I just think that the upside that it could potentially bring, I think it is definitely worth a shot in the last pick in the second round.
Yeah, I think he's got a great name, hasn't he? De'Ami Brown. It just sounds good. But yeah, he's a dynamic guy. He's a great deep threat. I do worry if he's going to be anything for fantasy, but I do like that he's tied to Fitzpatrick as a guy that's confident and competent at getting the ball down the field. My guess is that he is a better real-life prospect than fantasy. And then just one last point on De'Ami Brown. I think if the Rams were looking for a potential deep threat guy, De'Ami Brown would have been a way better pick than Tutu Atwell.
Yeah, agreed. I absolutely love Brown's talent. The fact that he fell to the third is not ideal, but it's not impossible for him to become relevant. He's so dynamic that he can be used in different ways on the field, and with Fitzmagic at quarterback, you could see some booming touchdowns. And at this point in the draft, it is that dart throw. So I'm just drafting the talent here, and he's one of the few players in this draft that you could end up in a year's time and he could be a steal at this position, or he could end up, with very little opportunities. And a bit of a wasted pick. So, but the 212, I'm definitely happy to take my shot. So just a question for you, Matt. Are you concerned for Brown that he'll be too far down the depth chart to contribute decent enough fantasy production?
I think it has to be a concern. I think it's potentially going to be a bit boom or bust. But I think he's got a shot at being the wide receiver 3 on the team. And as we say, at this point of the draft, you're taking dart throws. You're throwing plenty of poo at the wall and just hoping that one sticks. So yeah, I'm happy to take a shot on him at the end of the second round. So that brings us to the end. Then I'll give a quick recap on who we took in the second round. It went Marshall, then Bateman, Carter, Elijah Moore, Rondale Moore, Trey Sermon, Tony, Kev's new nickname ASB, my new nickname Postman Pat, Collins, Rodgers, and Brown. So as I say, that's the end of the show. We've given you our post-draft 2-round Dynasty Superflex rookie mock draft, and obviously we've tried to analyse them a little bit and the landing spots and obviously the Dynasty perspectives that these guys have got. So before we end the show, lads, have you got any final thoughts on today's show?
Yes, the whole draft process was a bit strange for me with all the landing spots and the draft capital. It sort of threw me. I think the consensus was that it was a really deep class, but then when you start analysing it, once you get to sort of the pick 18, so middle of the second round, it really starts to drop off in talent and quality. last night I traded the 202 and 204 in one of my leagues and traded up to the 108. And I think it's something that I'm going to be looking to do in my rookie drafts going forward, is to grab the first round talent and not so much pick guys in the second round who are less certain of a role. But yeah, I'm definitely, again, I'm banging the drum for, if you can flip any of your sort of second round rookie picks for proven talent, then I'm absolutely doing that this season.
Yeah, just a couple of bits for me. I think Travis Etienne over Najee Harris every time. Terrace Marshall, he's in a prime spot to dominate, and don't overthink Javonte Williams is going to crush it. I think as well, you've got to think about tiers in your rookie drafts. Don't be afraid to trade out, especially late in both the first and second round.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. That the tiers is going to be key when you're in your rookie drafts. Don't feel like you can always move around in your rookie draft. So if, like the moves Ali just suggested, I think that's something that could be great, and potentially even dropping down. We mentioned from the 101, if you can drop down to 102, 103, and then get a piece added on top, you're winning straight off. So yeah, with that, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on Twitter at Fantasy Wildcard. We've got our link tree site on our Twitter page where you can find all his podcasts and his shows on YouTube. So please do check it out and be sure to subscribe. And then be sure to tune in next week on Tuesday, the 18th of May, where we're going to be doing his rookie deep dive. It'll be his final show before the big Fantasy Wildcard streamathon on Sunday, the 22nd of May. So as I say, please tune in next week, and we're gonna reveal his little hidden gems, aren't we, guys?
Yeah.
You don't sound too excited about giving your secrets away there, Kev. So with that, thanks once again. Have a good one, and we'll see you next week.
Ta-da.
See ya.